Measuringhistory.com makes the case for Neptune-Pluto waves as ages of history. What we're going to do is we're going to go over the frequency of each of the outer planet waves and show you how long those last, and then put them in context of each Neptune-Pluto wave, show you through the Neptune-Pluto wave wheel and also through other similar diagrams how the Neptune-Pluto wave fits in within the outer planet wave concept that Measuring History champions, and go over some of the details particular to the Neptune-Pluto wave, show the Neptune-Pluto wave anatomy, then go over briefly each of the 14 Neptune-Pluto waves that we have seen since 45 BC, including the one that we're currently going through now, 1893, Neptune-Pluto 2384, and then give you some of the highlights of some of the particular waves. Because Pluto has a different orbit where it's squished at one end and fatter at the other, where it bends as little as 12 years in some signs and as long as 25 years in others, its orbit in regard to Neptune is unique among the other planet waves. If Neptune and Pluto had a standard orbit, the distance between quadrature alignments would be 123.5 years, but instead each Neptune-Pluto wave on average, the first quadrature alignment is about 171 years. The next one is 71 to 72 years. The next one after that, the third phase is 171, 172 again. And then the third phase is 71, 72 approximately. And this is with every single Neptune-Pluto wave. So Neptune-Pluto waves act like standard outer planet waves where they mirror the lunar cycle. You still get the 0, 90, 180, 270 degrees, 360 quadrature alignments, but because of Pluto's weird orbit, we get basically an asymmetrical, symmetrical situation. It also influences decade-long transits that are inherent to the Neptune-Pluto anatomy. And another thing we should notice is that also that each Neptune-Pluto wave, the halfway point or the 180-degree span is a Pluto return. It's the same thing between 0 and 80 degrees as we see between 90 and 270 degrees. When we look at the 14 Neptune-Pluto waves that we've seen since 45 BC, including the current one up through 2384. We break them down to 45 BC to 45 BC to 1570 BC, and then segmented to the Iron Age, 1569 to 1577 BC, and then 1576 through 2384 to make it a little easier to manage here. And when we look at them for their historical significance, we see that the time between 45 BC and 1570 BC, the world of Egypt and Mesopotamia dominated. We see 353 BC, that conjunction begins the first process to making writing more portable. We see a continuation of that process at 3055 BC, which we can guess begins the Bronze Age. We see a shift around 2065 to Babylon, and then a shift to during that Neptune-Pluto wave, 2065 Neptune-Pluto 1570 BC to the Iron Age. And then we'll talk about the Iron Age a little later, so we'll skip that. Skipping ahead to 576 BC, Neptune-Pluto 85, that covers the axial age, the age of when Buddha was alive, Zoroastrianism, and the first steps to Greek philosophy. And then the next one, 85 BC, Neptune-Pluto 410, we can pretty much attribute that to transcribing the Roman Empire. Then the Dark Ages are the next two Neptune-Pluto waves. The 1399 Neptune-Pluto 1893 is similar to the Bronze Age. We'll talk about that at some point. And that brings us up to the current wave, 1893, 2384. So we see that we're not really that far off of describing historical periods that are already known to mainstream historians. The wave wheel, which we showed in other videos, also shows us the relationships between Neptune-Pluto quadrature alignments and Uranus-Neptune and Uranus-Pluto quadrature alignments, and shows why each Neptune-Pluto wave has individual characteristics that are represented by how these quadrature alignments line up at each Neptune-Pluto quadrature alignment. That brings us to an interesting wave, 576 Neptune-Pluto 85 BC. The reason why it's interesting is because it's the one time that all three of the most outer planet waves, Uranus, Pluto, Uranus-Neptune, and Neptune-Pluto met in a conjunction in the period that we've surveyed. There's two other times in history or that are within range of our history, but 576 is the only time in the history that we're covering. And it just points out that the way that a wave begins, the conjunction that it starts with, has the same structure throughout the wave. It shares the same characteristics that the conjunction does. The Iron Age is interesting, beginning with the 1570 Neptune-Pluto 1073 wave. That one has the first inklings of monotheism, Moses. We have the Phoenicians, and it's also the full span of the Egyptian New Kingdom. As these wave wheels show, these breakdown of wave wheels show, each Neptune-Pluto wave has 4 Uranus-Pluto waves and 3 Uranus-Neptune waves. And also pay attention to, for instance, the trines for this and the last Neptune-Pluto waves. They have trines of 60 to 80 years. Each Neptune-Pluto wave has a period that mirrors each other, or 2 periods that mirror each other, where one transit, usually that lasts 3 to 5 years, lasts for 60 or 80 because of Pluto's strange orbit. In this Neptune-Pluto waves as ages video, we learned that though Neptune-Pluto waves follow the same 495-year pattern, in other words, they have a regular pattern throughout history and throughout time, and that this pattern matches the quadrature alignment proportions seen at the lunar waves and other outer planet waves, that even though it matches the metaphor that we showed using the Saturn orbit as a demonstration to see how the quadrature alignments interact with one another throughout a process, that even though we see all these things that are standard with Neptune and Pluto because of Pluto's weird orbit, we see something that is not standard. We see a symmetricality of 171 years, approximately 171 to 172 year phases for the first and third phases of Neptune-Pluto waves, as well as second and fourth phases being approximately 70 to 72 years. So even though it's symmetrical on both ends, it's not the same as other outer planet quadrature alignment arrangements where you would basically see a equal division by the quarter. And the other thing that gives each Neptune-Pluto period a unique structure is where the Uranus-Neptune and Uranus-Pluto, and obviously the other Saturn cycles and Jupiter cycles, Jupiter waves, fall under each Neptune-Pluto period. That's why we looked at 576 BC, we saw that the triple conjunction of Uranus-Neptune and Uranus-Pluto, along with the Neptune-Pluto conjunction, reflected in all the quadrature alignments throughout that wave. And also we learned that there are 14 Neptune-Pluto waves, each that could substitute as ages of history. And along with the quadrature alignments, we learned that these Neptune-Pluto waves actually trace the patterns of history pretty closely. So it's not too far of a leap to use them as the ages of history. And then again, because each one is unique by their Uranus-Pluto and Uranus-Neptune patterns, each of them can be viewed separately as almost seeing history in a structured way. Of course, like Measuring History on Facebook, just type Measuring History into the search on Facebook. But that page really is a support page for the Waves blog. If you just go to measuringhistory.com, the Waves blog comes up, and there's a lot of fun to be had there. It's a very rich experience. A lot of this information is embedded in the links. You see these pictures with small pictures on them. Click on the smaller pictures. More information pops up regarding Measuring History. And if you look closely, if you look at you see a video icon next to a link, or a book icon, or a camera icon next to a link. Each of those pop up with additional information. Measuring History, thanks you for watching.